Hi everyone, and welcome to the US edition of the What Matters 2026 webinar. I'm Sarah Van Oorle. I'm Content Activation Lead at Humanate and one of the many people that contributed to our report. Now, in the past couple of months, we collaborated over our regions, over teams, to answer one guiding question. What matters to people and brands in 2026 and beyond? And today, we're really excited to share our thinking with you. But of course, I'm not doing this on my own. I'm joined here today by Mark Graham, his client consulting lead at Humanate US, and Alex B, who is project director at Space Doctors, our in-house partner for cultural strategy. And together, we would like to invite you to step with us into the future and discover what matters to people in 2026. But before we get serious and before we dive in, we'd love to take a quick temperature check. So first, to clear the air, what trend talk are you most tired of hearing about? And you see the poll appear here on the screen. So let's have a quick look. Is it about AI? Is it about crypto? Is it about proteins? Too much on proteins? Is it the term 6-7 that I'm personally also fed up with? Or is it just all of the above? Let's take a minute to, oh, I already see some results coming in. A lot of people voted for AI. AI is still going strong. Yes. AI followed by all of the above. So there are definitely a lot of topics that you're like not really interested in, but I can assure you this is noted. And lucky for you, we won't tap into any of these topics today. Now, all jokes aside, we also know it are rough times today to start thinking about the future and start thinking about what you can do with trends. So in a second poll, a bit more serious poll, we would like to ask you, what are the biggest challenges thinking about the future, thinking about the application of trends that you are currently dealing with? So if everything goes right, you should see the next poll. So is it about too many trend reports? It's hard to prioritize, difficulty for long-term planning given the uncertainty. It's about turning trends into actions, aligning your teams on the future, or staying relevant without just chasing every trend that passes by. Let's see what your answers are. It's a tie between the uncertainty that makes planning difficult and staying relevant without chasing every signal. So, yeah, it's close. Yeah, the uncertainty is winning at the moment. But thank you for sharing this because this is really helpful context for us to know what you're currently navigating. So in the next 45 minutes, sorry, we will take you through 4 of the trends from our What Matters report, and we will illustrate them with a lot of brand examples from different regions and different sectors. Now, if any examples come to mind while you're listening to our session, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Also, if any questions come to mind, next to the tab, you also have a questions tab. You can drop any questions there, and you can also upvote each other's questions so that the most relevant ones are placed at the top. And then also don't forget about the poll, the emojis. So we have some emojis at the bottom that you can use to react, to show your agreement, or to just share how you're feeling and whether the things that you are sharing today are resonating with you. Regarding the questions, we'll try to answer as many as possible during our event today in the chat or during also our Q&A at the end of today. Now let's dive right in. So before we really dive into the trends themselves, let's also have a quick look at how we actually got there. So at Humanate, we practiced what we preached and we used our Now, Wow, How framework with foundational research at the core. So first, the Space Doctors team started with a cultural analysis to identify emerging themes for 2026. And they did this by tapping into a cultural living database called Pattern Field that is built on more than 20 years of cultural tracking and foresight. Next, we took that input further and we organized hive minds or brainstorming sessions with sector and regional experts to really narrow that input down to 8 emerging themes. Then in the now phase, we dove into the research part and we started with a global survey with more than 12,000 consumers across 16 markets to validate those 8 themes or trends. Then to contextualize these and get a better understanding of how these different trends are playing out across the globe, we also did or organized AI-powered interviews with more than 200 consumers across 11 markets. And then to wrap up the research phase, we tapped into an insight community to explore how one of those trends is really playing out in people's everyday lives. And then in the final how phase, the Space Doctors team, they use their speculative tools to develop future concepts. So those are products, can also be experiences or rituals from the future that shed a light on one of the unresolved tensions today that are linked to the trends. So let's have a look at what we have learned. So our global research from our global survey, we see that the majority of people are actually quite happy and also optimistic about the future. But there's also another side. We see that fewer of them, they trust institutions, and only 45% of them, they believe that the next generation will be better off than they are. And we see a similar tension if we look at human and AI, where we see that 76% of people, they believe that technology can really make their lives easier. And even more than half also believe that AI can have a positive impact on their daily life. But again, on the other side, we see that 64% really worry about that the human touch is getting lost. And 61% worry about the impact of tech and AI on our society. And it's actually that tension between confidence on the one hand and concern at the other hand that is at the heart of our What Matters 2026 report, which is entitled Recalibrating Identities. So people are taking a step back, they are looking at those tensions, they are looking at the bigger picture, and they are recalibrating who they are within. So people are kind of renegotiating what it means to belong, feel seen, to feel recognized, and to stay true to themselves at the same time. And this resulted in 8 consumer trends. Now, today, for the sake of time, we will zoom in on 4 of them, which is human pride, the achievement zone, health unscripted, and the shouting economy. Over to you, Mark.
Sure. Thank you for the wonderful intro, Sarah. So, as you're seeing on the screen, the first trend that we're going to talk through today is called human pride. So, what's this one all about? Well, with an increase in automation, chatbots everywhere you turn, and AI slop videos flooding the internet, there's a feeling among consumers that humanity is it's kind of getting harder to find. We're seeing that in our data. As Sarah mentioned, about 2/3 of our respondents worry that the human touch is being lost. So this trend of human pride, it's about people reclaiming the value of human touch, things like craft, creativity, and experiences that feel unmistakably made by us. It's about leaning into what sets us apart from the machines. And again, this is a theme that's showing up strongly in our data. We're seeing that 79% of US respondents believe that human creativity, craft, and imperfection will always matter more than what machines can generate. So this idea of human pride, it's a reminder to embrace what it means to be human with all of our strengths, our flaws, and unique identities. It's the joy of learning, the pride of mastering a skill, and even the experience of falling short. We felt like this particular quote was really kind of summed it up nicely. There's creativity even in mistakes. It just brings a human aspect to things. Beautiful stuff, right? So how is AI showing up IRL, right? How is human pride? How is human pride showing up, manifesting itself in the world? Well, we have a few examples for you today. So the first one is for Polaroid, right? So you guys see me, you see my hairline. I'm no spring chicken. So as a person of a certain age who had a Polaroid camera growing up, I was excited to start with this one. And this is the Polaroid camera campaign. It's called the Analog for Life campaign, right? Analog Life campaign. I'm sorry, I misspoke. So if you look at, you might not be able to see it clearly, but this is an out-of-home billboard execution, and the headline reads, "AI can't generate sand between your toes," and we have a nice Polaroid photo of a couple on the beach. So the message is a reminder that those real, lived-in moments matter more than anything digital or AI generated. By celebrating analog photography and sensory life, the campaign drives home the idea that no technology can replace the feeling of being present and capturing real moments as they happen. Okay. The next one is for Lay's. Everyone loves Lay's, right? So this is their 2025 Super Bowl spot. And in this one, they told a simple story about a young girl that nurtures a potato, harvests it, and shares it with her family, right? So, unlike other Super Bowl spots, there's no dialogue in this, no celebrity cameos or anything like that, no silly gags. It's just a message of human effort and care. It's a celebration of people going beyond the food, it's a celebration of their craftsmanship and their connection to the product. And behind the scenes, actually, Lay's has been investing in programs that support young farmers. So, really, this is about making human skill and legacy the real hero across the entire campaign. So, I believe we do have the 30-second spot to share for you today. So, let's take a look.
If I was a flower gone wild, wild and free, all I wanted to be my sweet bee. And if I was a tree grown tall and green, all I wanted to shade me and be my leaf. If you were a wing, I'd be a nod. If you were a seed, well, I'd be a pod. If you were a floor, I'd wanna be a rug. And if you were a kiss, I know I'd be a
Beautiful stuff. All right, our next example is Kara. So, if you're unfamiliar with this, Kara is a social media and portfolio sharing platform for artists and art enthusiasts. And it actually bans AI generated images and it automatically tags posts to prevent AI scraping. Right? This platform has actually been growing leaps and bounds over the last year. And that growth is attributed to pent up demand for environments where creative work is guaranteed to be human authored. And the next example, believe it or not, is for Apple. Um, so if you've logged into your Apple TV account recently, you might have noticed the logo looks a little different. There's like a fun sort of colorful gradient happening. They've kind of slightly transitioned from that old school all white logo. And as it turns out, they've changed this identity with entirely practical real world effects instead of CGI or AI. It was crafted from actual glass, lit and filmed with physical lights and lenses and camera movement. It really kind of has like an old school 70s Lucasfilm vibe in how they constructed it. We actually have a quick sizzle reel for you that shows how human craftsmanship sort of updated this iconic logo. Beautiful. And then the final example for human pride is from a case from our own work. We at Humanate, we sometimes like to get high on our own supply, so that's what we're going to do here. This is for some work that we did with a confectionery brand, and the work was about exploring how ideas are generated, right? So as part of the process, we compared three approaches to getting to generating ideas. The first was internal ideation workshops. We've all been a part of those. The next was AI generated ideas. And then the third source was from creative crowdsourcing. So, first, in the internal workshops, we noticed a common pattern, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, is that ideas tended to repeat, right? People were inadvertently kind of leaning on familiar themes and paths. That might be through that kind of shared context of working together, might be a little bit of groupthink, whatever it might be. We're seeing a lot of samesies, if you will. On the other hand, AI generated ideas and those from creative crowdsourcing brought in fresh and unique perspectives. But a lot of those just didn't really fit the brand or the product constraints, right? They were creative, but kind of lacked that nuanced understanding that humans bring. So, where the magic happened on this one was when we combined human intuition with machine assisted ideation. By blending these approaches, we increased winning ideas fivefold. So again, this is a perfect example of human pride trend. Effort, skill, and creativity amplified by technology, but not replaced by it. So that is all I have for human pride. I'm going to pass it to Alex to go through the next trend.
Thank you. So, yeah, let's talk about health unscripted. Health unscripted is a shift in the way we understand the meaning of health and really acknowledging that standards of health have been set based on a kind of one size fits all ideal. So, this space is about health that isn't defined by an able bodied neurotypical standard. There is a whole spectrum between well and sick, and we can accept and understand that people are shifting along that spectrum depending on many different factors, including life stage, context, or their emotional state. Health starts to become seen here as this ongoing journey. And we can see that 77% of the people we spoke to in the US are already in agreement that there is no single way to be healthy, and healthy lifestyles should really reflect individual needs. This quote from our research expresses that idea that there isn't a single formula to health, with awareness of different bodies having different needs and different metrics, which might actually be no metrics at all. So let's look at some examples of this trend. The We Do Not Care Club was started by Melanie Sanders in 2025 with the purpose of rejecting societal and health pressures during the menopause and perimenopause. And members of this quite powerful social media movement are really unapologetic about the way that their health is changing and dropping those external expectations for how their experience of this stage in their life should look and feel. Hims and Hers Healthcare addressed the adoption of GLP-1 treatments in their Super Bowl 2025 campaign. The company used the slogan, "Health is personal, so is your care," and specifically tailored treatments to individuals' needs and goals. And here in this campaign, they directly address America's obesity crisis with an understanding of the challenges of the current healthcare system. So we can take a look at that campaign.
Obesity is America's deadliest epidemic.
This is America.
74% of us are overweight, and obesity leads to 500,000 deaths each year.
Why, you just have to stop eating, Jimmy.
This is America.
Something's broken, and it's not our bodies, it's the system. Welcome to Weight Loss in America.
Like and subscribe.
A $160 billion industry that feeds on our failure. There are medications that work, but they're priced for profits, not patients.
This is America.
This system wasn't built to help us. It was built to keep us sick and stuck. But not anymore. Hims and Hers offers life-changing weight loss medications. They're affordable, doctor-trusted, and formulated in the USA. You get a treatment plan designed by a doctor to fit your body, goals, and lifestyle. You deserve to feel great in your body. This is the future of healthcare. This is Hims and Hers. Join us in the fight for a healthier America.
Next, we can look at Health, who are a wellness tech company that believe that connection and community should be a priority for well-being. And we see that people are starting to reject those more kind of strict and rigid routines that might actually be impacting their health negatively. And understanding that sometimes the healthiest choice might be rest or to socialize instead. In this example, we see Health highlighting that a slow morning with your partner might actually be more valuable to your health than sticking to that rigid 5 a.m. workout routine. Daily Harvest's Eat Food Not Fiction campaign addresses the growing frustration with the wellness industry and complicated ingredients and routines that feel unachievable and confusing. So instead of trying to keep up with wellness trends, Daily Harvest encourage people to rely on the tried and tested goodness of fruits and vegetables and keep it simple with giving them permission to step away from those endless wellness innovations if that doesn't feel right for them.
with labels that you need to translate, supplements marketed by your old roommate, wellness routines wrapped in biohack schemes. These are a few of my fictional things. Functional mushrooms and activated cashews, peptides extracted from laboratory matches, influencers claiming mystical springs. Well, this just feels like a fictional thing. When you're confused, when trends make you feel lost and afraid, just remember that fruits and vegetables work and the fiction will fade away.
So now let's start to think about what health unscripted might look like beyond 2026. And this is where our future concepts that we mentioned at the start come in. At Space Doctors, one of our methodologies is speculative foresight. This is where we take signals of a future that we can see happening today and imagine how they might play out. So signals are the kind of early cues of where culture is heading, fragments of the future that are already taking shape. And through these really robust strategic foresight frameworks, we explore and imagine how culture might evolve, revealing opportunities, tensions, and illuminating perhaps unexpected pathways forwards to ensure that your brand is future facing and culturally fluent. So, looking at health unscripted, we could take a signal from today. For example, health insurance companies that reward customers for tracking 10,000 steps a day to lower their premiums, and think about how that might play out in the future. So imagine if we could easily track cortisol levels, the stress hormone, and companies would be fined if their employees went over a healthy level of stress. What if people in 2030 needed to exercise their softness as well as their fitness? So let's go to 2030, where Mood Gym, a fictional concept we've created, helps you to tune into your body's signals. Now, Mood Gym is not a spa or a boot camp, but it's a space that treats health as an evolving practice, shaped by your body and emotions in the moment. Where fitness gyms reward repetition and correction, Mood Gym rewards experimentation, curiosity, and drift. Whether you need to move or perhaps a safe space to explore some difficult emotions or maybe just a rest, Mood Gym provides real time biofeedback and mood check ins throughout your session. Rooted in inclusivity, neurodiversity, and body neutrality, Mood Gym replaces rigidity with responsiveness, inviting people to feel their way to health. So, here, health isn't restrictive or binary, it's about being present and alive. So, how could you use this speculative concept coming back to today? This isn't about reacting to this concept specifically, but starting to loosen our grip on reality and helping us to imagine the future and the role that our brands might play. What new challenges might Mood Gym pose for us? What would the opportunities be? And how could this impact our strategy today as well as our long range planning? And I'll pass it back to Mark
All
for the
right,
achievement
excellent.
zone.
Thank you, Alex. In the meantime, sign me up for Mood Gym. That sounds a lot better than whatever I got going on over here. Okay, achievement zone. This is our next trend. So what's the deal with this one? This is about achievement being redefined as pride in the journey, right? We are seeing people increasingly highlighting the hard work, the discipline, and resilience that build their accomplishments. Where effort was once kind of like quietly tucked away, something I don't want to talk about, something I'm going to not say too much about. It's now achievement is sort of that journey is now emerging to the surface. So it's no longer about the low key flex, as the kids say. Social media amplifies this. If you're like me, you might be seeing fitness and lifestyle influencers showcasing progress and milestones, turning effort into something shared rather than silent. And again, this sentiment is showing up strongly in our data. We're seeing that 69% of folks in the US say, or respondents in the US, say that achievement is not just about results, it's about showing the effort and discipline it took to get there, right? Cool. All right, so how's this one showing up? What are some real examples? Let's start with Carhartt. We got to give a little love to Southeast Michigan in this one. I know that there was a lot of folks from that area that signed up from that region, so you got to give the people what they want sometimes. This is Carhartt's Made Possible campaign. It honors the hard work of tradespeople across various industries. By showing heroes of everyday achievements, the brand underscores the value of hard work and the importance of recognizing the effort that often goes unnoticed when making greatness happen. So let's take a look at this 30-second spot.
Take a look around you. Before the curtain rises, before the crowd rolls, before the table's even set. They're the early risers, the unsung heroes building the world we live in. Things we love are only possible because of skill and sweat.
That's good.
They always show up. And when they do, it's in Carhartt.
Very cool. Another example is the F being humble movement. You guys see what I'm going there with the F, trying to keep this family-friendly event. This was a book by Steph Sword Williams that came out a few years ago, and it's kind of turned into a social movement of sorts over the last few years. The original publication has expanded into things like personal development classes, a speaker series, and brand partnerships. As the unsubtle title would suggest, this movement is about that we should own our own wins, speak up, and use confidence to advance our careers. The book is packed with real examples, exercise, and steps to help people recognize their value, stop hiding their value, and turn it all into momentum. It celebrates people who actively pursue progress, embrace ambition, and don't wait for someone else to validate their successes. Another example is from a Canadian brewing company called Whistle Buoy. It's the Find Your Courage campaign. This campaign takes a fresh spin on the classic idea of needing a drink to feel bold. I think we've all been there. It flips that script by showing people finding real courage with less alcohol, whether it's something like singing karaoke, asking someone out, or stepping outside your comfort zone. The headline of this one reads, "One day someone will belt out Mr. Brightside coherently," and then the tagline is, "Find the courage with a little less liquid." Very clever stuff. So again, it embraces relatable, everyday moments and celebrates the effort behind being brave, not just the social lube that people expect from alcohol. And it invites people to share their own typical moments of courage with less liquid. Okay. And guys, you knew it was coming. You knew if we're going to talk about Achievement Zone, there was going to be a Nike example. So here it is. This is the Why Do It campaign. This is a set of ads that highlight the real achievement that comes from the process, not the final results. So instead of glorifying trophies or finish lines, it focuses on the emotions, the struggles, dedication, and personal growth that happens along the way. By celebrating the reasons people keep showing up, things like passion, resilience, self-discovery, the campaign reframes success as the journey itself, making the effort more meaningful than any end goal. So let's take a look at this spot.
Why do it? Why would you make it harder on yourself? Why chance it? Why put it on the line? With so much at stake, with so much room to fail, why risk it? Why would you dare? Seriously, why? You could give everything you have and still lose. But my question is, what if you don't?
So powerful stuff. You can't accuse Nike of not knowing how to make a 30-second spot. So before we get to the next trend, just wrapping up what it all means, remembering to talk about it this time. So what does the achievement zone theme mean ultimately for brands, right? With 2026 likely feeling a little bit economically tougher, big wins feel further out of reach for many people, right? What resonates more now isn't polished success moments, but the journey behind it, the effort, the setbacks, and the small steps forward. So brands that celebrate the end result risk of being out of touch. The opportunity is to recognize the progress, persistence, and growth along the way. That could be through storytelling that shows real effort, tools or rituals that help people track and feel proud of how far they've come. Because in this climate, feeling proud of the journey matters just as much as the final destination. So that is what I have for the achievement zone. So I'm going to pass it off to Alex to the final trend of today, which is shouting economy.
Thank you. So I think we can all agree that the world feels very loud, and people and brands are really feeling the pressure to be louder and bolder in order to be heard. As a consequence of this, we see the absurdity dial turn up. There's an influx of constant stimulation, and among that, the kind of unexpected and strange narratives are the ones that start to cut through the noise. So in the US, we see that 59% of people are acknowledging that quietness and subtle communications are often missed and get lost. But as we know, culture doesn't always move in one direction. There are normally these countercurrents that we see, or reactions to these trends and shifts, and that's really expressed in this quote. Yes, the loudest voices get the most attention, but among that, there is a desire for meaning behind the message. Loudness and visibility lack impact without authenticity. So let's look at some examples. And here we can see the glue brand Sellies showing the quality of their liquid nails product by sticking everyday objects to one of their billboards and challenging people to pull them off with the message, if you can take it, it's yours, as well as really confidently demonstrating the quality of their product. Sellies here have this engaging approach that was grabbing attention in a really meaningful way. So let's see what happened. To highlight the infinite recyclability of their packaging, Liquid Death created a campaign with cans that contained Ozzy Osbourne's DNA and the many possibilities of recycling that DNA in the future. Now, the brand have already built their kind of tone of voice on dark humor and rebellion, leaning into the shock value of this campaign, but also building loyalty with customers who recognize Liquid Death's space in culture as a playful provocateur. And again, we can watch this campaign.
There will never be another Ozzy Osbourne, unless you have his actual DNA. Introducing infinitely recyclable Ozzy by Liquid Death. These cans of low-calorie iced tea with B vitamins have each been drunk by Ozzy himself. And each can contains trace DNA from Ozzy's saliva, as well as his handwritten signature. Now, once technology and federal law permits, you can replicate Ozzy and enjoy him for hundreds of years into the future. Just imagine if you could bring back early 80s Ozzy. He can mow your lawn, perform at kids' birthday parties, or anything you want.
Get it, Ozzy clone. Yeah.
So get your can of infinitely recyclable Ozzy. No, this is not a joke. Yes, these contain Ozzy's actual DNA. There's only 10 available. Act now.
An example here from some work that Space Doctors did. So we worked with Coty Adidas to create their Adidas Vibes fragrances. And this really started to explore this tension for this kind of shouting economy within wellness and within fragrance. So our creative strategy work informed the brand's look and feel and packaging, and fusing this kind of mood lift neuroscience with art in vibrant, mood-driven bottles. And the product doesn't whisper wellness as you'd expect, it really broadcasts it. And the punchy naming, the saturated visuals, this kind of emotionally charged positioning aren't just about the aesthetic choices, they're really strategic amplifiers designed to cut through the digital din that we see, especially in beauty, and resonate with really overstimulated Gen Z consumers who are seeking clarity and emotional uplift. And the launch of these was a real commercial success, the #1 mass fragrance in France and doubling market expansion in Italy. So a really good example there. Also at Space Doctors, our most recent downloadable report, Dopamine Divers, Navigating the Future of Digital Addiction, explores the modern attention span among this context of kind of loud and constant messaging from brands online. And in this report, we unpack the wider forces that are shaping today's digital behaviors within that space of kind of fragmented consumption and always on messaging and constant content. So, as well as the kind of mindsets and emotional needs driving today's digital habits, you'll also see strategic opportunities to create more resonant and responsible digital experiences where you can feel like you're not just adding to the noise, and you can find that report on our website. And now I'll hand back to Sarah to wrap up the session.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Alex and Mark, for sharing these trends with us today. So we hope this session has sparked some ideas, has given you some inspiration, and you will all receive the full What Matters 2026 report after this event. So you can explore there all 8 trends with some more depth, some more nuance, and also many more brand examples. But of course, inspiration is only the first step. So these trends are actually a starting point for future exploration and deeper exploration. So what really makes the difference is that you explore and test your ideas with real people in real context before deciding what trends to lean into and how far to also take it. It's really a matter of keeping the finger on the pulse of your consumer. And the same goes culturally. You need a clear sense of where your brand already sits and how it is showing up in people's lives. So the brands that get it right, and Space Doctors calls them culturally fluent, they aren't trying to chase just every shift or every trend that comes by. They're really focused on connecting with emerging culture in ways that feel true to who they are. Now, before we go into the Q&A, there's another thing that I would like to highlight, and that is our 90-minute trend application workshop. And we use those workshops to help teams translate the trends into concrete brand relevant actions. So they combine human-led thinking with more AI-powered ideation to bring the trends to life and to also make them actionable for your business. So if you would be interested in this, we would love to continue the conversation with you after today. And then a small request from our side, we would really love your feedback on this session. So you see a QR code on screen. If you have your phone close by, please scan that code. It brings you to a short survey with 3 questions. Your answers will help us to improve our sessions or to also shape future sessions to make them as relevant as possible for you. And with that, we have ended and we are at the Q&A. Let me have a quick look at the chat and the questions tab to see what questions are there. Right. Here it is from Eric. In relation to the human pride client case study on idea generation, does the view towards AI and real life experience different by age segments, etc.? We have actually seen this in the global survey that we have run for this report, for the What Matters report. We also took along ages and different generations. So more nuance on that you can find indeed in the report for all trends, but especially for human pride, we see indeed that older generations, for example, if they want to get advice from someone, we see higher percentages there for real life communication, real life input, real life advice. I think it surfaces to around 90%. While for the younger generations, that percentage is lower, but also around, let's say, 70%. So I would say that although the younger generation score maybe a bit lower on real life interaction, etc., it's still quite high. So I would say the human pride trend and being proud of our human achievements and who we are and real life interactions, etc., is slightly higher for older age or older generations, but the youngest ones also score very high on that one. So I hope that answers your question, Eric. I don't see immediately another question in the question tab. Yes, we will share the recording after this session. I think that's it. We still have a couple of minutes, so maybe Alex and Mark, we can also have a brief reflection on the content of today. Maybe Mark, if it's okay, I can start with you. So taking maybe from your side a more consumer insight perspective, as a brand, I see this working for a brand, I see this presentation, I see those trends. What's then the next step? What should I do with this content?
Yeah, that's a doozy of a question, right? But a good one, right?
Sorry,
So
sorry.
no. I think I can feel this one. So yeah, that's the tricky thing with trends reports, right? Is that they're provocative, right? They tell us cool things, but the actionability isn't always clear. It's kind of like a now what, so what, right? So I think the key is when you're making that transition to sort of when you're trying to figure out what to do, right? It goes from we recognize that this is a thing, this is a trend, to translating that to how is this tension actually showing up in people's lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
So probably the most effective way to do that, I would say, is spending time with real consumers. And that's not just one-off surveys, but really kind of getting in deep, seeing how their attitudes and behaviors shift in everyday life. That kind of work helps brand understand kind of which parts of the trends truly matter, and which ones you might call it cultural noise. Like the shouting economy one, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
You could see a knee-jerk reaction from that would be like, not that any brand would say this, but you could see an immediate knee-jerk reaction would be like, all right, in our media, we need to be bigger, bolder, louder all the time, more, right? However, that might not be, fit for your brand. It might not be a fit for your type of consumers, right? So if you spend time with consumers, look at their media habits, then you might be able to understand, okay, here's which parts of the shouting economy trend are applicable to my brand and my consumers, and here's what's less relevant and ultimately less valuable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, you can kind of apply it to three things, right? Brand strategy, using trends as a lens to clarify what you stand for. Customer experience, identifying where those shifts
Mm-hmm.
show up in the journey. And then finally, innovation, turning behaviors into new ideas, services, formats, real problems, right? So the bigger point is that trends are best kind of viewed as prompts, as an area to start for bigger exploration, right? And the brands that benefit most from these things are the ones that can kind of pressure test those ideas with real people
Mm-hmm.
in real context before deciding how far and what way to lean in. So yeah, so that's kind of
Right.
it. And I know a
Perfect.
great agency that can do this sort of stuff. So there you go.
Oh, Mark. Maybe quickly also going to Alex. I know we've reached the end of the webinar, but quickly also giving Alex a moment to talk about this. So, Alex, coming to you, these trends are shaped by wider cultural forces, thinking about technology, media, people's identity, the uncertainty of today. So, more from a cultural strategy point of view, how should brands think about their role in this landscape? How do you see this?
Yeah, so I think really just building on what Mark already said, it's really important when you're looking at culture to understand your brand's existing role and your place in the cultural landscape in which you already exist. we can't all be doing communications like Liquid Death, right? They've really built that space up and that makes sense for them. And brands that are culturally fluent really understand that this isn't about just keeping up with every single trend. It's about resonating with people by connecting to the emergent culture that's relevant to you in an authentic way. So one way that you could do that is look at the cultural landscape, but also do a brand decode to have a look at what your brand is already communicating, whether that's intentional or unintentional, and really start to point towards a North Star of where you want to head and what you want to communicate. And then you can really prioritize the spaces where your brand can meaningfully connect.
All right, thank you. So then there's nothing else for me to say then. Thank you very much for joining us today. And if you would still have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you and have a nice continuation of your day. Bye.
Bye.